Next, I'd like to discuss electronic auctions and markets. Here's the agenda. I'm going to skip number 4, agents and auctions, and discuss that later. Many of these slides were taken from a talk by a fellow by the name of David Pennick. The colorful slides are his. Here's a market framework. You've got buyers and sellers, one or many. If you've got one buyer and one seller, it's a negotiation. If you've got one seller and many buyers, it's a typical forward auction. One buyer, many sellers, it's a reverse auction. Prices go down. And many sellers, many buyers, you've got a market or an exchange. Here are some characteristics of auctions. You can see that sometimes they're not as simple as they seem. You can have one or many goods. You can have one or many items. They can be the same or a little different. You can have many attributes, forward or reverse. They can be one round or progressive auctions. They can be English or Dutch. Dutch auctions are descending price. They can be by invitation only or open. So there are many characteristics, as you can see here. And we're going to discuss some of these in this talk. So what's an auction? Has an explicit set of rules, resource allocation and prices. Auctions are good for objects that have unknown values. They're flexible, dynamic, mechanized, and they're efficient. Okay, there are different types. We're going to discuss many of these: English, Dutch, sealed bid, Vickery, and so on. Things that we're concerned about: winners and losers curse, collusion, price discrimination, shield bidding, efficiency, and transparency of information. So when winner's curse happens, if you get an unknown value for an item and the overly optimistic bidder wins and the true value is probably less. This can happen especially with a sealed bid auction where somebody is bidding way higher than everybody else. So they've evaluated the price higher, and then when they win the item and pay that high price, they feel cursed because they paid too much. Loser's curse would be just the opposite, where somebody loses the auction, doesn't get the item, but they had won the auction if they would have bid just a little bit higher, so they feel cursed in that sense. Collusion. Bidders can collude. They can form a ring. That's a form of cheating. Shield bidding. Shield bidding happens when the auctioneer bids on their own auction to get the price up. That's another form of cheating. Okay, so you know that on eBay there's probably a lot of shield bidders out there, so you've got to be very careful bidding on some electronic auctions such as eBay. So English auctions are open, one item for sale. This is your typical auction that most people think about when they discuss auctions. Buyers call off their bids. A Dutch auction, like in the Dutch flower markets, they're open. You can have many items for sale. The auctioneer begins high, and they lower the price in increments, and the first buyer willing to accept the price wins. So they stop the clock. In Holland, at the flower markets, an auction occurs on average every 4 seconds or less. They're very quick. In fact, I've got a video posted on my YouTube account that shows a Dutch flower auction. You can go and take a look at that. Sealed bid first price. This is what I mentioned earlier. All buyers submit their bids privately, and the buyer with the highest bid wins. So in this illustration, the person who bids 150 pays 150. It's a first price auction. Reverse auctions are usually used for procurement. Upside down auctions, okay, usually used for B2B commerce. There's an auction site called prosper.com, which is a eBay for loans. That they use a reverse auction mechanism where the loan percentage rate, interest rate, is what is auctioned and the rate goes down. Check it out, www.prosper.com. Okay, and again, these are fairly common in B2B procurement auctions. The sealed bid second price auction, also known as the Vickrey auction. Vickrey is the father or grandfather of auction theory. He wrote a paper in the Journal of Finance in around 1961, and he discusses different auction types, and this is one that he discussed. It had been used previously for stamp auctions. So in this auction, it's sealed bid, and you can see that the highest bidder here, the highest bidder bid 150, but they pay only 120, so they pay the second highest price. So this will decrease the phenomenon of winner's curse. In the Vickrey auction, there's incentive compatibility because telling the truth is optimal in this auction. Revenue equivalence is one thing that the economists talk about, which auction is best. And with the revenue equivalence theorem, the expected revenue is the same. But there's a number of assumptions here that apply. In multiple units auctions, you've got homogeneous goods. They can be open or sealed. There can be price discrimination or not. And wine auctions are an example of multiple unit auctions in a wine auction estate. The way wine auctions work is they auction off one bottle in an English auction type, and then the buyer has the option to take that one bottle or take the whole case for that price. If they only take one bottle or a partial case, then later on in the day they come back to that partial case of wine and do a repeat auction. There's likely to be price discrimination. Price discrimination meaning that it's going to be a different price. Here it's probably going to be a lower price. Yankee auctions are multiple unit auction. Sealed bid, you write down on a piece of paper how many units of the good that you want with the price. And then the winners are ranked by price. The people who are willing to pay the highest price wins with the quantity that they desire until the quantity runs out. There is price discrimination in this auction. An English clock auction is another multiple unit auction. The clock starts low and clicks high. At each price, bidders announce the quantity that they want to have, and the clock stops when the supply equals demand. So here there's only one price. There's no price discrimination. Everybody gets exactly what they want at the price that they want to pay. No price discrimination. And typically there might be some practice rounds. A new type of auction is multiple dimension auction. 0 dimensions is price only. 1-dimensional auction, price and quantity. 2-dimensional auction, price, quantity, and other attributes, where other attributes could be warranty, delivery, payment terms, many other types of attributes or issues. And the 3-dimensional auction, price, quantity, other attributes, and multi-line items, multiple items. There are different approaches for multi-issue auctions, as you can see, that's discussed in the literature. Combinatorial auctions are quite common for spectrum auctions. The FCC just had a spectrum auction. These are also known as bundle auctions, where you can bid on bundles of goods. Double auctions are many-to-many auctions, also known as exchanges, like the continuous double auction at the New York Stock Exchange, where the price changes throughout the day. And then there are call markets, where the market clears at specific times during the day. Lastly, I want to discuss briefly prediction auctions, which are used to predict uncertain events in the future. Peer-to-peer, like the Iowa electronic auction market, is probably the most common or most well-known. There's another one called News Futures, Betfair, Trade Sports, and so on, that are basically P2P prediction markets.